This is Unit 9 of my Introduction to Marketing Full Semester Curriculum, and this particular unit is all about customer perception and physical branding. The essential question, what I hope that my students can answer by the end of this unit, is how do physical branding and customer perception influence a customer's decision to visit a shop and purchase from that business? All of my instructional slides do come with a teacher guide with pacing as well as other information and necessities and things that you should know. Do note for this particular project and unit, there is a deliverable that is a physical component. I recommend that if you're a teacher out there considering this project, do save some boxes for a few months, or maybe not a few months, but at least a month in advance from grocery shopping and hauls and whatnot like that, whether it's shoe boxes or cereal boxes, that kind of thing. And then also encourage your students to bring them too, because it will help you in the preparation for the end of this unit's final deliverable, which students do tend to enjoy. So consider that, as well as some construction paper and other coloring resources. Here we go. So which business would you visit first? First impressions matter. You can only visit one. Which one are you going to? And you can clearly see that there's a variety of different aesthetic for each of these businesses. What assumptions are you making before even walking inside? What catches your attention? What would you avoid and why? Which one would you choose? And how did you make that decision? Was it the aesthetic of it, the colors, the branding, the signage, the cleanliness, the location, the accessibility? Maybe it's assumptions about quality because you saw that there's some star ratings on Yelp or whatever it might be. You've never visited that business before, but you still had to make a decision. What factor influenced you the most? Oftentimes, customers are going to make opinions before they ever walk inside. The blueprint of a positive first physical impression of a store, because we've already gone over all of the digital and social footprints in prior units to this. But if you're walking through the mall and a brand new store just opened, what's going to stop you? So every detail sends some type of a message. You've got to make sure that you're making it a good one. It could be the storefront appearance, the branding, the colors. It could be the signage, the cleanliness, the lighting, the atmosphere, the vibe. It could be people waiting out in front in line. We've got a coffee shop down the street from my school that is, it has a line out the door, it seems like a mile long every single day, because they have a solid digital footprint. And as a result, people stop, they see it, and they say, why is everybody in line there? Then they look it up, or they stand in line and they choose to become patrons of that business. The first activity that we have for this unit is the front side of the worksheet that's included, where first impressions are made over based on a store of their choosing. The students will recreate the storefront of some type of a business of their choosing. The mission is as follows. They've been hired as a marketing consultant, and the storefront is struggling to attract customers. Their job is to redesign the storefront and create a stronger first impression. Consider adding signage, logo, brand colors, window displays, landscaping, lighting, promotional signs, seating areas, and other improvements. Every improvement should support your target customer. We then complete those worksheets and get some peer feedback and revision. They exchange their worksheet with a partner and then add a strength and an opportunity. And that partner has to actually sign off on it on the worksheet to hold students accountable to make sure that it is that they're doing it. And I have students do the peer review for a number of reasons. One, it's good to get peer feedback, but two, it holds the student that's creating that storefront accountable so that they know that they have to create a quality job because their peers are going to see it. So you can see this before and after image here. As we move away from that side of the worksheet, we start talking about, now that the customer has arrived, what happens next? Because your customer saw the aesthetic, they liked it, it's something about it has appealed to them, and they noticed your storefront and decided to visit. What could make it a great experience or potentially a terrible experience? They walk inside the store, they've arrived, they've entered. Now they need to navigate the store. If they've never been in, they don't really know the procedures. How do they interact with you as a business, and how do they make that purchase? Great businesses are built one customer interaction at a time. This is the example of a journey. This slide is cut off for some reason, but it's effectively going to go over the steps that we are going to go through for each one of the planning pieces of the customer journey. Step one is the parking setup. So once you arrive in the parking structure of the business, let's say it's not at the mall and you show up, do people know clearly where they're supposed to park? Is there different designated areas? For example, if I go to Home Depot and I need to pick up something heavy, do I know to park near the customer pickup area? Or if I'm at fill in the blank other business, maybe like a landscape supply store, do I know where to park my truck? So the next step of the worksheet on the back side of it is an aerial view of the business that students will be renovating and revising. In my full semester work, students work on a business that they revitalize for the full semester And so in this case, in the aerial view, this is where they would make any kind of changes to the parking structure and whatnot, and they would do this on that worksheet. Now I have them start to think about the business that they just walked by. Let's say that it wasn't them driving by and they were at the mall. They've never been inside of the store. They just walked by it. What made them go in? I have them turn and talk to a partner. And then we start thinking about that front entrance view. We've already drawn out the front entrance of another store. Well, think about the entrance features necessary to be able to attract your customer for the business that you're revitalizing throughout this semester. Think about the signage, the walkways, the paths, the lighting, the landscaping, the door location, the door condition, the accessibility, welcoming touches. There's all kinds of different aesthetic pieces that you can do. You want to make that entrance easy to find and access. It should be welcoming and customers want to come inside. If you've never been inside of the store before and you walk inside, how do you know where to go? So at this point, students will turn and talk, and this is based on their business that they're pursuing. So if I'm a clothing store, pretty straightforward. You know, you could see shoes, you could see whatever is there. If I'm a hardware store, how do students or how do customers know where the lawn equipment is? How do customers know where the paint is? Is there a guide? Is there a storefront? Is there something in the front that has like a menu or a legend or a navigational menu for me to look at? Next up is the navigation through that store. This is what they'll be doing on that worksheet. From that piece here, we now need to start thinking about if you needed help, what do you do? Do you need to go find a employee to help you? Is there a customer service layout? Is there some kind of a spot where you can ask for support? What made that interaction positive or negative after asking for help from the employee? In this example, I showed that there's a help desk as well as a information desk or kiosk that you could type things into from there. Now that you're at the point where it's time to check out, if there's a long line, what is your impression? How do you feel as a customer? What is your experience? Or maybe there's a short line and there's nobody in line. Is that necessarily always a good thing? Usually it is, but sometimes you start to wonder, well, what is the quality of this? Am I getting ripped off? Is the price point too high? Then we start talking about the purchase. It's time to finally make your purchase, spend the money, and complete this transaction. Do you know where to go? Is there clear signage? How do you know what to do? And last, would your customer come back? Is the business earning the business with reviews? Is there QR codes? Are there other things there that say, hey, become a loyal customer of ours? We appreciate your business. How do we get you to come back to us? And now it's the student's turn to design their customer journey with the other side of this worksheet. And so again, if they are doing this for the full semester project, then they would use that business. If it is just a one-off that you're using this unit for, then have your students pick any business of their choice or design, and it could be whatever they choose to do. And then they create the aerial view overhead layout of that customer journey map, including the parking lot, including the overhead aerial view, and all the other components there. So what we've learned so far comes together here. We need to distinguish the arrival, the entry, the navigation, the interaction, and purchase points, all for a business. This is the physical marketing component of what does your customer do once they've arrived. So perception is built over time through many moments. Make every one of them count. That perception matters because if you have a welcoming appearance, it's easy to navigate. You have helpful employees, the professional branding, and the first impressions are it lock solid and everything looks good. Then when you make that visit and you make that purchase, you're more likely to return instead of if you have a negative perception with a confusing layout, poor signage, unfriendly service, rundown appearance, and difficult parking. Customer perception influences whether customers will visit, buy, and almost most importantly, return or make referrals. So, how can we improve customer perception? If we look at a business's existing layout and aesthetic, what could be an improvement to the customer perception in the form of improvement with bold signage, attractive colors, landscaped areas, welcoming entrances, and clear parking? Now, we've done that in the form of a worksheet. It's time for us to actually make the physical component of this with a storefront revitalization challenge. And students really do get into this. In fact, I don't know that you'll be able to see it necessarily from here, but here is the Costco rendition of how a student revitalized the Costco store and footprint. You can see it better in this image here. If you are a marketing consultant, you need to choose this business, improve their perception, the physical branding, the first impression, customer perception, customer journey, accessibility, and visual appeal. So we are designing a storefront that customers will notice, visit, and remember. From idea to storefront, this one is pretty wild, an excessive amount of time spent here. So your challenge, choose the business, redesign its physical location to create a stronger customer experience using cardboard, paper, paint, markers, printed logos, recycled materials, creativity, anything of your choosing. I, as the teacher, will bring cardboard boxes. Students may choose to bring their own boxes to meet the demands of the size that they want. And I've also had students that use all kinds of props and whatnot here, depending on what it is that they are creating. For example, this home store here that was appealing to college students and their dorm layouts. Next up would be the business revitalization project requirements. And here I go through everything that needs to be included. So you've got the business identity, needs to have the name, the logo, brand colors, storefront signage, slogan or tagline. The physical features must have a parking area, the main entrance, walkways, customer pathways, landscaping, exterior lighting, and directional signage, as well as a few marketing features here. I usually only require two of these. For example, a promotional sign or advertisement, either a sale or special offer, a window display or featured display, and then physical branding elements. The goal here again is to improve customer perception, create a stronger first impression. This ends up taking approximately 6 days from start to finish between the instruction, the worksheet, the guided notes, and I do have a very light quiz that comes to a conclusion at the end of this unit, but it is the creation and creativity of making these storefronts. And then at the end, I have my students do a gallery walk through all of the finished products, and we provide like and wonder feedback about the opportunities. And it's kind of cool to get all of these projects together because you lay them out almost like it's an overhead city and you see all these businesses come together. It is an awesome experience. I appreciate you folks for taking the time to teach what I believe to be the most valuable classes on campus.